Hey guys, welcome to a new Fortnite experiment. In this one, I am gonna check if it's possible to run faster than any of the vehicles in Fortnite. Since it's a special occasion, I figured that I may as well dress myself up as the Flash, so that's what I did. Before I was actually able to start with the experiment, there was quite a bit of prep that I had to do. So obviously I had my outfit ready, but I also needed a location, and selecting this was actually kind of tricky. If you walk in the woods or on sand or anything like that, it doesn't really affect your running pace. However, if you drive a mud flap or a whiplash over sand, they obviously go a lot slower in comparison to driving them on a normal road. Keeping that in mind, I decided to go for a little bit of a neutral surface, so I chose Stark Industries. There's a lot of normal asphalt there, and it's quite a long runway, so we start at the end and then go for a 100-meter dash, and whoever reaches the checkpoint the first is obviously the winner. Now, choosing a location was one thing. After that, I had to select all the vehicles that I wanted to use for this experiment. I know that there are different variants of vehicles available. For example, you have the Bear and then you have the OG Bear, but for most of them I just chose a single variant and lined them up so that I could start racing them in a bit. The only car that I made an exception for was the Whiplash, so I grabbed the Rocket League variant and then also the Stark Industries one, because I was very curious whether or not one of them would go faster than the other. After lining up all of the cars that I wanted to test during this experiment, I also had to get some different items. The first one were spicy fish. Those aren't really that difficult to find, you can get them from pretty much any fishing spot. And Wolverine, his name is indicated in Battle Lab, so I didn't have to spend 15 minutes looking for him. However, the last item that I needed, and which is coincidentally also the one that has been giving me a lot of stress lately, are the peppers. For some reason they have become extremely rare, and even if I break every single fruit or vegetable box on the map, I only managed to get a total of 4 or 6, which is really weird. Anyway, if you have Wolverine's claws, you run faster than you usually do, and this effect stacks with a spicy fish, and then it stacks again with a pepper. So I figured I'm just gonna combine those 3 items, and then I'm gonna try to race against every single vehicle that we have available, or at least every single type. And I want to see who's faster. Can I outrun them all, or will there be some cars that are just way faster than I can run? After doing all of that prep work, it was finally time to start with the first race. I wanted to start pretty neutral, so I selected the Prevalent as my first opponent. I got my friend to drive it, and then I would be the one running. And this is also where I first realized that I may have severely underestimated how fast the cars go in Fortnite, and how fast I can run with all of those items combined. For the first attempt I was like, okay, let me get some sort of an indication of how severely outmatched I'm going to be. And I'm not going to use any of the fish or the peppers, I'm just going to grab the claws and I'll run with those. And once I started running, I immediately was like, okay, this is obviously not going to work. I need to go back and start using those items, because that car, it just left me in the dust immediately. This wasn't really a good foresight of what was about to come, because the most regular car of them all already reached the finish line twice as fast as I could run. I suppose the 100 meters that I selected also makes a difference, because if I would put the goal further at maybe 200 or 250 meters, the distance between me and the car would only increase, because there is a little bit of time that the car needs in order to get to maximum speed. And I had to use that time optimally, because when I start running, the time that it needs in order to reach max speed is significantly lower than for the car. Unfortunately, even if I used the pepper and the spicy fish, I still wasn't able to go faster than the Prevalent, so I lost the first round. In round number 2, I went up against the mud flap, and before I even started this experiment, I already decided for myself that if there is going to be any vehicle that I'm going to win against, it's going to be the mud flap, because that thing takes incredibly long in order to reach max speed. And even the max speed isn't really that good, so I honestly couldn't really think of any reason why I would lose this one. Here's where things get interesting. While I was actually racing against the mud flap, I couldn't look over to my side and see if I was running behind or if I was ahead. And I figured, okay, I'm just gonna assume that I was a little bit faster, but unfortunately I couldn't go back into theater mode and see what happened. But then when I was actually editing, I stopped on a certain frame and I could see that my foot actually passed the marker already. And then the mud flap was still like running behind a little bit, so I was like, yes, this round goes to me, and that made the score 1-1. In case you were wondering how we were taking off at the same time, or at least trying to, I was counting down from 3, so I would go 3, 2, 1, and then after 1 I would say go, and then once I said go, that was kind of the signal for both of us to start taking off. But I think that there was a little bit of a delay in me saying that and then the game registering my friend's input, because for some reason it felt like I was just going a little bit earlier than he was, or he was just responding like with a tiny delay. Anyhow, for round 3 I built a tiny little structure with 2 doors in it, or 2 openings, because my friend couldn't see my marker and he was like, well, I can't really help you figure out which one of us actually reaches the point first, because I'm just going straight ahead and I can't see when we're done. So hopefully this structure was going to help with that. In round number 3, I was going up against the bear, and I was really surprised with the results of this one, which is purely because of the fact that the bear has a very slow takeoff. Whenever you want to drive this vehicle, it actually goes faster in reverse than it goes if you just drive normally. And unfortunately, I ended up losing this round in the same manner that I won the previous one, because my foot kind of got over the shadow mark of the structure that I built, and the bear had already passed it with its nose. So it was really a close call, and I think that if I would have used my dash, then I would have definitely beaten him. But I was just surprised because the takeoff was so slow, and then he ended up catching up on me after all, which was weird, but anyway, it made the score 2-1. During round number 4, I kind of started to realize that I probably should have lowered the distance from 100 meters to 75 meters. There were a couple races that I lost purely because of the fact that it took the vehicle a bit of time to reach maximum speed, and then it would take over in the final 25 meters. Anyway, in round number 4, I went up against a motorboat, and for this one I was like, okay, that motorboat really moves so slow if you don't use the boost, and it takes a bit of time as well before it's cooled down and before you can use it again. So it kind of made the assumption that my friend wasn't able to use the boost twice. And I was like, I'm just gonna start this round off without taking any of my spicy fish or my peppers. I'm just gonna equip the claws. And I started running. I was like, okay, well, I severely underestimated that again. What happened afterwards was even more unpleasant. So I took my fish, I took my pepper, and I started running. And I was actually ahead. Like, my friends used his boost and then slowed down. I was like, okay, you're gonna need so much time to recharge. And in that time, I could easily make my way to the finish. And then, just when I had enough confidence to think that I was gonna win this round, he used another boost and just dashed to the finish. I was like, wow, that is unfortunately going to be another L. It made the score 3-1. And again, I realized that if I would have used my dash, like if I jumped and then pressed jump again, Wolverine would dash forward. That would have made the difference, and I could have won the round with that. But I really wanted the experiment to be just me running, and I wanted to see if that would have been faster or not. So there was really no point in using the dash. After the boat, it was time to go up against the chopper, and I really expected that it would take the chopper more time to just start its engines, go up, and then get ready to use the boost and then dash forward. But then when I actually was running against the chopper, it's like, oh well, that went a lot faster than I expected. The chopper was already at the finish and I didn't even pass 50 meters yet. That was like really shameful, honestly. I should probably just add 2 points to the opposing team for that one. But anyway, I lost against the chopper and that made the score 4-1. At this point, I had already lost against so many vehicles that I was like, okay, maybe I should start incorporating the dash in my run. And I tried this against the taxi, and it actually went a lot better than I expected. It's only when I was editing that I realized I probably should have started with a dash, then gained my momentum, and then finished off with the dash again, because there's a little bit of a cooldown in there. It's way less than the cooldown for a motorboat, but there's still a cooldown, so that could have made the difference. I don't know. In reality, I was just trying to think of rematches so that I could postpone going up against the Whiplash, because I was not looking forward to that one. Unfortunately, you can't postpone things forever, and that meant that it was time to go up against the Whiplash. I made a slight little miscalculation, and this resulted in me not having any more spicy fish, and also not having any more peppers. And when I was running, I just decided to bolt halfway, and I was like, let me use my rage quit emote, and then it ended up not working. So it's like, oh wow, that's great. After going up against the Whiplash, it broke my spirit, and that was also the last run that I did against the vehicle while trying to be the Flash and using 3 items to optimize my running speed. I have to say that I'm still really impressed with how fast you can actually go while using all of these items, but still, it is no match against some of the vehicles. In conclusion, I think that if I would have used my dash optimally, I definitely could beat the Mudflap, I beat the Bear, and then perhaps also the motorboat, but then there are still 5 other vehicles for which there is absolutely no way that I could beat them in a 100-meter dash. So yeah, that's the conclusion of this experiment. Thank you guys so much for watching. If there's any experiment you would like me to do, you can leave it in the comment section down below. Feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you at the next one. Peace!